Today we'll be taking a look at the difference between an independent contractor and an employee. We've come into Restaurant Catering Queensland to talk with Ken Law a bit more about the subject. He's going to fill in some basics for us. So Ken, what exactly is the difference between an independent contractor and an employee?
Okay, the difference between an independent contractor and employee gets really down to the legal responsibility that applies to both of those type of people. There is one responsibility that directs to the independent contractor in terms of what he needs to do to be included in that status. The second responsibility is the difference between how the employer supervises that independent contractor and a normal employee. An employee is covered by general terms and conditions of employment, where an independent contractor is subject to a control test. He pays his own taxation, he has his own ABN, he invoices, and so on. It is clearly that there is a difference in the legal responsibility and the right to control.
So the legislation discusses a control test. What tests do contractors need to meet to identify as a contractor or an employee?
Okay, when they want to apply the control test to their duties as an independent contractor, there are probably 12 or 13, maybe up to 15 different things that they should be looking at to try to achieve the majority of those results. I'll name just a few. One, whether the person has an ABN number. Second, in relation to the amount of control that the employer has in terms of supervising the work. Third, does the employee pay his own taxation? Does the independent contractor pay his own taxation? Fourthly, does the independent contractor pay his own superannuation? Fifthly, does the independent contractor have his own professional liability? And maybe one other thing, does the independent contractor provide his own tools? All of those things, and there are a number of other elements that should be taken into consideration to clearly identify the difference between an independent contractor and an employee. There is a case that's become reasonably predominant called the Vabu case. It's about some bicycle couriers, where the High Court eventually made a decision that the bicycle courier were actually employees and not independent contractors, and that's basically the main precedent we use in industrial relations these days to separate the difference between an employee and an independent contractor.
As an example, what would happen if I had a company structure and contracted myself out at an hourly rate through invoice, add a GST, and worked for 5 different businesses as a waiter?
That wouldn't be a problem as long as you knew exactly what was happening. If the employer was prepared to recognise you as such, prepared to accept your invoices to work, say, in XYZ cafe for 7 hours a week, where you provide an invoice, you pay your own taxation, there's generally little control over your services, you are a professional and you come in and just do the job, then you go to your next employer and you do the same process. You would be close to becoming a truly independent contractor, but again, it still gets down to how much control the employer has over you. But generally speaking, if the employer agrees to let you invoice them for the work you carry out in that restaurant or cafe or catering organisation on a specific day at a specific time, well, that's fine. You're starting to fall within the true definition of it.
So what do my employers need to know about contracting?
Well, the employers need to know, be able to really understand the difference. They should contact an association like Restaurant Catering Queensland. I'm the Industrial Relations Manager, and we have a department that specialises in industrial relations issues. Now, if there seems to be a question about whether there's a difference between an independent contractor and an employee, before they go down that track, they should really speak to the association. But generally speaking, if they cover what's required in the control test, the majority of items, you never probably cover everything in the control test, but if you can cover the vast majority of them, you would become truly an independent contractor.
So what are some of the steps that contractors should look at today to rethink their business model and the way they conduct their business affairs?
Well, they need to look at the level of control that their principal will have over them. That is one of the main things. They need to ensure that when it comes to providing their own tools, for example, a chef needs to provide his knives and clothes and all that sort of stuff. They need to take into account,
so they need to be self-sufficient?
They need to be fully self-sufficient. They need to be just come into a workplace and do the job. We in my association really doesn't encourage too many independent contractors, but we know it happens and we understand that that's fine. But really, there are more more independent contractors in the areas of construction and transport than hospitality, but they are becoming more prevalent, and we understand from our stats probably 15% of some of the catering businesses are using independent contractors.
If employers have any further questions, where should they go?
If they've got any further questions, they can ring Restaurant Catering Queensland. We have an office here in Brisbane. We also have an office on the Gold Coast. Now, anybody has a questions, they can ring up either one of those offices. They'll be put on to myself as the Industrial Relations Manager or my off-site Paula, and we will answer any questions they have. But again, they should be a member of our association. We encourage everybody to be a member of our association.
Thank you very much for your time, Ken. Thanks for letting us come in today. And if anybody has any questions, you just can go straight below the vodcast and there's all the details you'll need there. Thanks guys, stay tuned.